I'm willing to bet good money that if you jumped on any kind of property Facebook forum or gave it a quick Google or whatever it is, you're pretty sure to find somebody talking about such and such a market in such and such an area is saturated, and you don't want to be going there. You don't want to be doing that particular strategy in that area. You particularly find it around sort of HMOs and to a certain extent service accommodation and holiday lets. And obviously you and I invest in both of those areas. So what are your thoughts on market saturation? Is it a thing? Is it something we should be aware of? And yeah, what's your take on it?
So market saturation, it's one of those things that, as you said, the name or the words have been buzzed around for so
Mm,
many years now.
yeah,
Someone's going to tell you, right, don't go there because it's already been and gone. There's not
yeah,
anything else to do. Which in some cases, yes, that might be. But as
yeah,
you mentioned, it's because there's a specific strategy which has been
yeah,
completely taken to its furthest point, and then
yeah,
that's when there might have been regulations that are brought in from the councils to then put
yeah,
in something like Article 4 for HMOs
yeah,
to prevent
yeah,
any further
yeah,
development happening. But there's always a another means and a ways to be profitable or be business savvy in those
yeah,
areas. So we're just talking before we came on about turning, instead of it being a six-bedroom HMO, you turn it into four-bedroom multi-lets. So you're not
yeah,
hitting that
yeah,
certain tier point for HMO licensing, and then you've got an option there. So
mm,
yeah, saturation is it's certainly something to be aware of, but it doesn't scare me. It doesn't worry me with
yeah,
what I do investing. And I suppose where I am now, from having been investing for over 7, almost 8 years now, I've diversified my portfolio quite a lot
mm,
across the type of
yeah,
strategies I'm doing, such as buy-to-let, social housing, HMOs, multi-lets, flips, looking to commercial stuff as well.
yeah,
So turning those different strategies, I can focus on potentially one area or
yeah,
diversify across a number of areas. So investing in at least, I've got 5 different investment areas that I invest in now. So when I first started, when one area got very kind of maybe not even saturated, but just a lack of stock for me at that time, I
yeah,
at least managed to then go to another place to then carry on my busy purchasing process,
yeah,
to then wait for where my first investment area was to build back up again with new stock. So yeah, there's always saturation, but it's not thinking it's the glass half full versus glass
mm,
half empty kind of scenario of not allowing that to hold you back or fear, because as you mentioned, people will always talk about it,
yeah,
but those people might not be following the same process you need to
mm,
follow. So they might be
mm,
needing 100% ROI to make
yeah,
this deal work.
yeah,
And that's what they're saying, oh, it's oversaturated. You can't get money in, money out deals.
yeah,
However, you might be looking for 50% or 33% ROI, or it could be a
mm,
flip. And that
yeah,
actually brings deals into the market for you. So
yeah.
yeah, it's not listening to the full crowd and just taking pinches of salt, I would probably say.
Yeah. But fear is the thing, isn't it? That's what this creates. Particularly, I think anybody looking to start out investing, or maybe they're looking to sort of implement another strategy. It creates a lot of fear around whether or not that you're at the right place at the right time. Whether that the ship has sailed on that particular strategy in that area. I mean, my take on saturation is that you know, I guess, like you said, we've been doing this for long enough to see some examples of where certain markets in certain areas get so hot that it is difficult to sort of make your mark. Liverpool a few years ago, just it seemed like everybody was kind of flocking to Liverpool to do this, that, and the other, and Stoke's been really hot the last few years. So to a certain degree, that is, you need to have an awareness of where the market's at with those sort of things. But at the same time, like you said, for me, a market becoming saturated or a lot of people coming into the same space that I operate in really just means that I've got to find a way to differentiate what I'm doing from everybody else.
And you've kind of tipped a bit on the head of what I've done myself.
Mm,
I've invested down Liverpool way, and it was one of those things. The in thing was doing six-bedroom HMOs,
yeah,
so I first started doing that. Fine, but yeah, I was probably when I started investing down in Liverpool, I was told I was 5 years too late, but I
Mm,
still managed to get deals. I've still managed to get um, tenants into my properties. But then after a period of time, I realized the cost factor, the return factor. So when 80% of the stock was all 6 beds, I thought, right, let's pivot to do a 4 bed ensuite. And like you said,
mm,
mine were always filled instantly because it was such a unique thing for someone to
yeah.
do. So it's every, I think one of the things that I've learned from every time I've gone to a new investment area is anyone that I speak to, if it is a past investor or an agent, they'll all tell me you're too late because it's
Yeah.
their scarcity for having someone new coming into their domain and they're expecting, do I really want someone else and more competition? But
Mm,
I don't see them as competition to me, and they shouldn't see me as competition because,
yeah.
yes, I like to buy a lot in the year. Well, I like to buy maybe 8 to 10 properties in the year. So think how many properties hit the market on a daily to weekly to monthly
Mm,
basis. I cannot buy every single one of them.
mm,
So I shouldn't really be that scared of them because there's still going to be enough stock that I'll be able to buy at some
mm.
point.
And you've got agents shutting the door on them, basically saying, oh, you and everybody else trying to invest in this area, and not another investor, kind of thing, which seems like a strange thing for an agent who's incentivized by sales to be saying. But you do get, and I think, if I put myself in their shoes, just starting out, that could be quite demoralizing and could really sort of throw you off, couldn't it? Throw you off track. If that's the first conversation you have with an agent and they imply to you that there's so many investors that, there's just not enough deals to go around,
Yeah.
then, that could be, I mean, don't get me wrong, you've got to take input from people in your investment area and people who know the area well. But, equally, there'll be plenty of people that are building relationships and uncovering really good deals in that space. So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's trying to look at other ways of, so the last three purchases I've done recently, they've all been still on market. So
Mm,
when I've had agents tell me, Place is saturated, you're not going to find a deal here. Not a
mm,
chance." Every Tom, Dick, and Harry have been saying the exact same thing.
mm,
I went out, looked online. There was a property I could look at,
yeah.
bang, offered on it, offered below market value as well. So it was
Mm,
on for, what was it on for? I think it was on for 45, and I bought it for 37 and a half.
yeah.
So the deal is still a great deal, but no one
Yeah.
just was challenging that. Or I
Mm,
was looking at different tabs. So instead of it being, now I'm getting to the point of I'm buying portfolios and I'm wanting to basically do work smarter, not harder. So
yeah.
instead of buying one buy to let or one HMO or whatever at a time, I'm condensing, bringing 4, 6, 8 properties at a time, if not more.
Mm,
So I just obviously switched my train of thought and my approach to looking,
mm,
instead of it being on just normal residential properties, then look
yeah.
into the commercial tab.
Yeah.
And then that's where I found a portfolio, and that's one I just recently bought in the on the end of January. So
Yeah.
that's what I've just turned around. But that was something that was sitting there on the market for plain sight for everyone to see. Everyone's saying the place is saturated. There's a property still there ready for sale, and
Mm,
again negotiated to get it at a great price. But it was just because I looked at a different tab and a different line of attack. Because
yeah.
again, other competition might be nervous for buying multiple properties at one
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's because it's kind of a catch-22 situation, isn't it? Because you want to, if you're looking at a new strategy or you're just starting out, you want to gain confidence from knowing that there are other people in the area doing that, because that's a decent sign. You don't want to be sort of rocking up somewhere trying to do a strategy that no one else is operating necessarily. But at the same time, you know you don't want to feel that you're going into an area, like you said, where you're 5 years too late, and actually you're on a downward curve with that strategy rather than an upward curve. So I guess the take home message really on that is do your own research, isn't it? Is what we're saying. Is like, it's not that saturation doesn't exist, but it's do your own research and don't sort of take someone's word for it immediately, and just sort of see a post on Facebook or first agent you speak to who tells you that there's no deals, and then go and run a mile and abandon your strategy. I think you've really got to get to grips with what's actually going on in that area, isn't it?
Yes, it's exactly. Everyone has got different strategies. Everyone's got different targets, aspirations. It's one of those
Yeah.
balances. Just make sure you focus on you.
And the market, at the end of the day, the market has a way of leveling these things out and regulating it in itself, doesn't it? You mentioned Article 4 already. So, where a market is genuinely getting saturated, which it's where a particular property type is maybe having an impact on an area. So if there are, it quite often happens in big student towns, doesn't it? Where you've got a lot of HMOs within a small network of streets, and they can see that that's preventing local people from being able to buy housing stock. It's creating issues with noise and waste. And so that's where regulations will potentially be introduced. Article 4 being one of those, which is so an Article 4 is essentially a government regulation. Usually, in some areas, you have the ability to change a normal house, if you like, a C3 residential house into a C4 HMO under permitted development. Effectively, you've got prior approval. There's still some paperwork involved, but you don't have to go through a full planning application.
Yeah,
Where the council feels that there is saturation of HMOs, they will introduce an Article 4, which just removes your permitted development rights, and you have to submit a full planning application if you want to introduce a new HMO into that area. And it's likely, but not definite, because a lot of people say that means you absolutely cannot do HMOs in that area. That's not 100% true, but it is reasonably likely that they will turn down the application, because that's the whole point of it. They're trying to regulate the number of them. So,
yeah,
it's so regulation can come in to sort of manage where there is saturation in different areas. But equally, I don't fear regulation. I don't know about you. I never feared HMO licensing, because it favors the operators that are going to be operating at that level anyway, and that are
yeah.
taking the time to future proof what they're doing, and are, they take things like fire safety, etc., very seriously. And the same goes for service accommodation. There's also there's growing fear in certain areas that regulation's going to come in, or the 90-day rule that exists in London, and I can't remember if it's come into Edinburgh yet or it's coming in. I can't
It's
remember.
coming in. Yeah,
Yeah, so that, is that going to come into more cities? And but again, I just see opportunities there for professional operators to flourish. And really, what it's going to do is it's going to make life, which is what it's designed to do, is make life difficult for want of a better term, your rogue landlords, if you like, people who are trying to sort of duck and
amateurs.
dive, yeah, and cut the corners and save money at the expense of actually having a really good product on the market. So that's what it's all about, right? I think,
Yeah,
to if you're going to have any longevity, anyway.
definitely, definitely. It's
Mm.
it's be hungry. Again, there is
Yeah,
going to be saturation there. There's going to be things that will change and adapt, but don't fall at the first hurdle. If someone says no to you once, you're not going to pack up your bags and think, "Oh well, that's me done.
yeah,
I'm tapped out. I'm going to find another venture."
yeah,
You have to get used to rejection. Again,
mm,
I've had plenty of it in my lifetime, not just in property, to be honest. So it's have to be thick-skinned, and you have
yeah,
to get used to that rejection and used to something not might go the right way, but then you've got, as you said, the tools in your toolbox to either adapt it, you can change it, you can diversify it to
yeah.
then turn it into a positive.
Cool, nice and tidy. I think we've squared off saturated markets and busted a little bit of the myth around them, I think, quite nicely there. So hopefully people have found that useful. And Jordan, thank you as ever for your time and input, and I will catch up with you soon.